What if the hell you've been spoon-fed eternal flames, cartoonish devils, and vague brimstone wasn't the full nightmare, but a sanitized sketch to keep you from the raw, bone-chilling blueprints? Buried in ancient scrolls, whispered in forbidden gatherings, and condemned by councils terrified of their own reflections, lies a hell not of random rage, but of razor-sharp justice, chambers carved for specific sins, scales weighing every whisper of mercy, rivers of fire that pause on sacred days, and visions so visceral they could shatter a soul's complacency. These aren't pagan fever dreams, they're echoes from prophets, apostles, and seers whose words were outlawed because they exposed the powerful and ignited the humble. Tonight, we rip open the censored codices, Sheol's silent shadows, Gehenna's blood-soaked soil, and apocalypses that mapped the abyss with terrifying precision. If the thought of tailored torment and hidden reprieves doesn't rattle your eternity, comment "Unveil the Abyss" below, because what the church hid might just save you from it. We stand at the precipice, peering into the veiled vaults of Scripture's underworld. The Bible doesn't whisper hell's horrors in hushed tones. It thunders them through a lexicon laced with dread, each term a key to chambers we've been trained to ignore. Forget the fire and brimstone caricatures peddled from pulpits. These are doors to desolation, deliberately unsettling, designed to drive the soul toward the light. What you've inherited is a diluted draft. Scrub it of its scriptural sharpness by centuries of selective silence. Let's reclaim the vocabulary that once made hearts quake and knees buckle. Begin with Sheol, the Hebrew harbinger of the grave, a yawning chasm where every shade of humanity tumbled post-mortem. No velvet-robed Valhalla or hellish hierarchy here. Kings in their splendor and beggars in rags alike plummeted into its muffling maw. Psalm 16:10 cries out, "For you will not abandon my soul to Sheol, or let your Holy One see corruption," a plea potent only because the pit's pull was inexorable. A realm of shadowy stasis where echoes of earthly echoes faded into forgetfulness. It wasn't paradise postponed. It was the great equalizer, a subterranean silence that swallowed the spectrum of souls without prejudice. As the sacred texts crossed linguistic borders into Greek, Sheol morphed into Hades, borrowing the pagan nomenclature for the netherworld, yet infusing it with monotheistic menace. This wasn't cultural compromise, it was conquest, repurposing a familiar terror to underscore Yahweh's unchallenged claim over the dead. Then comes Gehenna, the grenade Jesus lobbed into his sermons, a word weaponized for wake-up calls. In Matthew 10:28, he warns, "Fear him who can destroy both soul and body in Gehenna," not a fluffy fable, but a visceral verboten. Evoking a valley so scarred by sacrilege, it became synonymous with divine disdain. This wasn't abstract allegory. Gehenna's ghosts were ground into Jerusalem's geography. Venture south of the city's ancient walls, where the terrain treacherous dips into the Valley of Hinnom, a ravine renamed for its rivers of infamy. Millennia before Messiah, under apostate monarchs like Ahaz and Manasseh, 2 Chronicles 28-3, 33-6, this defile devolved into a drumbeat of depravity. At Topheth's high places, fires flickered as offerings to Molech. Innocent infants immolated amid pagan percussion, their cries crescendoing to the heavens in futile fury. Jeremiah, the weeping prophet, wailed from the heights, "They have built the high places of Top-Het... to burn their sons and their daughters in the fire, which I did not command, nor did it enter my mind." Jeremiah 7:31. The valley wasn't just violated. It was vomited upon by heaven. Reformist Josiah sought to staunch the stain, desecrating the site in 2 Kings 23-10, rendering it ritually ruined. Yet the curse clung like cremated ash. Jeremiah revisited, rechristening it the Valley of Slaughter, Jeremiah 7:32. 19-6, prophesying unburied corpses carpeting the canyon. Carrion for crows and canines, a banquet of judgment for Judah's covenant carnage. Archaeological attestation amplifies the atrocity. At Ketaphinum, ossuaries from the 7th-6th centuries BCE cradle silver amulets inscribed with the priestly benediction. The Lord bless you and keep you. Numbers 6:24-26, juxtaposed against a gorge gorged on gore. By Jesus' era, Gehenna wasn't lexicon. It was landmark, a loaded locution laced with the litany of lost lives, prophetic imprecations, and Josiah's scorched earth sanctity. The modern myth of Gehenna as Jerusalem's garbage incinerator. A later legend, lacking 1st century ledger. No Josephus Jot or Talmudic tallies trash fires there. That trope trickled in from medieval musings, a misguided metaphor to make the macabre mundane. Jesus invoked no landfill. He hurled hearers back to the Holocaust of Hinnom, where child sacrifices screamed and prophets pronounced perdition. Gehenna, drums of doom, Jeremiah's, Josiah's jihad against idolatry. This is the threshold's terror, yet the canon conceals more contours. Enter Tartarus, a tantalizing outlier in 2 Peter 2-4. God did not spare angels when they sinned, but cast them into Tartarus and committed them to chains of gloomy darkness to be kept until the judgment. Borrowed from Hellenistic horrors, the myth's murkiest mire. A dungeon for divine delinquents, Peter pilfers it brazenly, baptizing it into biblical brutality. No elaboration. The echo suffices, a shiver-inducing shorthand for the nadir of nether realms. Then Revelation's finale, the lake of fire, the second death, Revelation 20:14. Devouring death and Hades, alike an eschatological erasure. Cosmic conflagration, where even the sepulchre succumbs, pillars of peril, propping a panorama partially pictured. These monikers Sheol, Hades, Gehenna, Tartarus, lake of fire aren't cartography. They're cairns, markers of mystery's magnitude. They affirm adjudication's authenticity without architecting its anatomy. But the canon conceals no void. Its companions, those apocryphal adjuncts, a judge too acute, amplify the abyss. In the 2nd century, amid the hush of house churches, the Apocalypse of Peter pulsed as proto-scripture, perused in pewless parlors. Penned purportedly by the Prince of Apostles, it proffered a procession through perdition, punishment's paragraph to perfidy. A gallery of grotesque reprisals that gripped and gored the gathered. Guided by the Galilean, Peter parades past panoramas of poetic payback. Layers lacerated by their own lingual lashes, suspended by serpentine tongues as flames feast on falsehoods. Slanderers stripped of lips, left to gnash in naked notoriety, their vitriol vivisected. Adulterers appended by anatomy abused, tormented in tender terrains twisted by trespass. The opulent, draped in damask while despising the destitute, now denuded and dragooned by dolorous drudgery, encumbered by eldritch boulders in a blazing brook, their finery flayed to filthy rags. Ecclesiastics eviscerated, false shepherds, fleecing flocks with feigned fidelity, flogged in full view, their hypocrisy's hall of mirrors magnified manifold. This wasn't lurid literature for leisure. It was liturgical lightning, read aloud to rouse repentance. As the deed, so the sentence. The mantra mirroring Matthew 7:21-23's mandate. Not everyone who says to me, "Lord, Lord," will enter the kingdom, but the one who does the will of my Father. Romans 2-6's reciprocity. He will render to each one, according to his works, ribbons through its retributive reels. Galatians 6-7's sowing-reaping symphony scores its scaffold. Early ecclesia is electrified. Envision elders envisioning errant elites ensnared, congregants confronting corrupt clerics, the text a theological taser too trenchant for tranquility. Why the whitewash? The Muratorian fragment, c. 170-200 CE, Rome's rudimentary roll call of revered reeds, reckons it, received by some churches, yet rebuffed by rigorists reluctant to recite it ritually. Clement of Alexandria canonizes citations. Eusebius, c. 325 CE, demotes it to disputed, even spurious. By the 6th century, it's exiled from Western worship, extant only in Ethiopic entirety and Greek ghosts. Not heresy, but hazard. A tome too tailored to terrify the tonsured, too transparent in targeting the tiared. Lears lampooned, lectures lambasted, leaders lambasted easier entombed than echoed. Yet its afterimages abide, Jesus' judicial jabs, Paul's proverbial precision. Early faithful, fingering neighbors' foibles and nobles' negligences, felt the fear factor firsthand. Pastoral? Profoundly. Perilous? Profoundly. Too accusatory for the anointed. Thus, archived in obscurity, but Peter's phantasmagoria was prologue. Other outcasts outlined the underworld's underbelly. One Enoch and the Testament of Abraham, blueprints of the benthic bureaucracy, delineating domains with draftsman's diligence. Enoch 22 1-14 etches a monolithic mountain, mauled by 4 facades fissures fractionating the fallen. Chamber 1, the just in jocund repose, rays of redemption radiating. Chamber 2, the neutral in nagging limbo, neither nectar nor nadir. Chamber 3, the violent in visceral vexation, vapors of violence volatilized. Chamber 4, blasphemers in bleak bereavement, their barbs boomeranged into boundless blues. Sealed silos, sonic seepage, sand solidarity, auditory anguish for the afflicted, auditory assurance for the absolved. Qumran's quartz-quarried choirs, Dead Sea Scrolls, and Ethiopia's enduring editions endorse its antiquity. Jude 1-6's angels who did not stay within their own position. He has kept in eternal chains under gloomy darkness until the judgment of the great day. Nods to its nooks. No Dantean daydream. This predates the Divine Comedy by a millennium. A Jewish Jeremiad Judaizing judgment's jurisprudence. The Testament of Abraham, 1st-2nd century CE, tempers terror with tutorial. The Patriarch, piloted by Archangel Michael, beholds a balance beam bonanza deeds diced into drachmas, dropped on divine scales. Abraham, initially an avenger advocating annihilation, averts as a destitute dame's depredations, pilfered provisions for her perishing progeny, pivot the pan toward pardon. Mercy tempers justice, the celestial catechist counsels. Abraham, abashed, absorbs the axiom of equity, circulating in Coptic and Greek, cherished in Christendom's cradle. It catechizes compassion amid condemnation architecture as academy, where even the adjudicator apprentice is in altruism. These weren't niche novelties. They nursed nascent notions of netherworld neatness. Enoch's escarpment, Abraham's assay order over anarchy, a moral matrix mirroring the Maker's mind. Rome relegated them. Enoch, too esoteric. Abraham, too Eastern. Why shudder the schematics? Because blueprints beget blueprints, believers building their own eschatologies, bypassing bishops' briefs. From Tahu Vabos primal pandemonium to partition perdition. Judgment, not jihad, but judiciary jigsaw. Each joint justice's jeweled dot, yet the Odyssey outpaces outlines. Apocalypses amplify. Paul's, Ezra's, Cedric's descents delving deeper, disinterring dreads and graces stranger still. The Apocalypse of Paul, Visio Pauli, 3rd-4th century, vaults to vanguard notoriety, verboten by Vatican edict, indexed as infernal influence, yet viral in vernaculars from Coptic to Slavonic. It inaugurates with Inferno's inlet, a fiery flume flaying the faithless, mendacious mouths masticated by maggots, murderous myths mulched in magma, adulterous anatomies agonized at infinitum. Sin's signature scorched into skin, a somatic scarlet letter. Then the theological thunderbolt, sabbatical surcease. Sundays and solemnities suspend the scourge flames flicker faint. Fiends furl their fury. The damned draw breath in bittersweet brevity. This eschatological espresso break electrified the masses, monasteries murmuring at mid-matins, villagers voicing it vesperally, outpacing orthodoxy's oeuvre. The Decretum Gelasianum, c. 492 to 496 CE, damns it explicitly. Apocrypha to be shunned, lest leniency leech the lash of law. Not novelty, but nuisance mercy's murmur muting magisterial menace. Manuscripts multiply, multilingual and mutinous, mocking the moratorium. Echoes elsewhere. The Apocalypse of Ezra, for Ezra. 1st century CE. Escalates the expedition stairwell spiraling to strata of suffering, each echelon escalating in extremity. Eyelash-lashed lechers, flame-fanged fiends. Obscurity obliterating outcries, a graduated gauntlet, grief's geometry. Then the Apocalypse of Cedric, 5th-6th century, Greek, grappling with grace's gamble. The seer, surveying the spectacle, sues for surcease. Abbreviate their atonement. Haggling heavenward like Hebrew forebears. Exodus 32 to 32's Mosaic mediation. Romans 9 to 3's Pauline pathos. Deity demurs, decrying due diligence, but Cedric's solidarity sways. Eons eclipse to epochs. Epochs to eras, intercessions incursion into ineffable equity. These triptychs, Peter's precision, Paul's pause, Ezra's escalator. Cedric's supplication forge, a forbidden's folio. Too tantalizing to torch, too treacherous to tout. Rome's recoil? Revelation's radicalism. Hell, not hermetic horror, but hospitable to Hagler's hope. If Apocrypha auditioned amnesty amid agony, what of the edifice? Absolute arson, or apertures for aurora. Timetables transmute torment from terminus to tutorial. Synthesize the schematics. Enoch's excavated edifice. Fourfold facets fractioning fates. Ezra's escalatory emporium, floors flaring fiercer. Peter's punitive palette, peccadillos painted in pain. Paul's pyretic pathway, a torrent tempered by truce. Cartography coalesces, apex alcoves for the acquitted, abyssal annexes for the arraigned rivers rutting rock, rants reckoning remorse, realms resonant with reprisal's rhyme. Corpus as codex, palms pummeling paupers, pinioned in perpetuity. Optics ogling obscenities, ocular orbs obliterated. Lingua libeling, licked by lava. Justice's Jeremiad, juridical and jugular, yet Psyche's pyre parallels. Luke 16:19-31's Lazarus lesson, the lavish one's lament. Send him to my Father's house, lest they also come to this place of torment. Not merely mouth's moan, but mind's mausoleum, memories mangling like manacles. Dual damnation, dermal and dermal, corporeal and cerebral holistic hellfire. Harmonizing horror, conspiracy crystallizes. Dante's Inferno, 1320 CE. Lauded as hell's hodologist, merely harmonized heirlooms. Circles, Enoch's chambers. Tailored tortures, Peter's precedents. Pre-Christian provenance, Qumran's choirs, c. 200 BCE to 68 CE. Alexandrian apocalypses, these weren't whimsical. They were witnesses. Rome's rubric? Relegate to rabbinic rubbish, lest laity litigate their legacies. Paul's, according to works, Romans 2 to 6, precludes pandemonium's potluck. Choreography choreographs culpability, a cosmic chore where no chaff evades the chaffinch. Temporal tapestries tantalize, not static stasis, but sequenced suffering. Talmudic tractates, for example, Rosh Hashanah 17a, timetable Gehenna, 12 lunar months for most malefactors. A purgatorial pivot preceding paradise Sabbath's sanctity, suspending sentences, flames furling at Friday's fall. Not negligence, but nuance reconciling retributive rigor with Rahamim's mercy's radiance. Christian cognates concur. Paul's Visio venerates vespertine respites, Eucharist's echo extinguishing embers. Luke 12:47-48's lash layers, many stripes for the malefactor. Few for the unwitting layer the litany, graduated gallows. Metered malice, modern misnomers malign. Dante dreamed it. Debunked delirium. Documentaries disseminate the dodge, didactics dilute the depth. Gehenna's garbage glow. Groundless, a 19th century gambit grafting Golgotha onto Gomorrah light. Ancients articulated. Vermin voracious, Mark 9:48, where their worm does not die. Pyres perpetual, Isaiah 66-24, yet parsed with precision. Dante, drafter, not deity codifying cascades from Sinai to Second Temple. Why wield this weight? Because hell's heritage hails from hallowed halls, not humanistic haze prophet's provenance, not poet's pastime. Final fiat. Fractured yet fervent. 3 trajectories traverse the tomes, each exegetically earnest, ecclesially echoed. First, eternal conscious torment, ECT. Matthew 25-46's mutuality, eternal punishment, paralleling eternal life, pins perpetuity. Revelation 14:11's smoke. Forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night, narrates nonstop nightmare. Augustine's aegis. Equity's essence, evil's endurance demands damnation's duration. A divine due diligence detaining defiance. Second, annihilationism, conditional immortality. Romans 6:23's remuneration. The wages of sin is death, dichotomizes doom. John 3:16's perish, posits cessation, not conservation in cruelty. Irenaeus intimated it. Dignity's decree God gratifies, not gratuitously girds, rebellion's residue rooted root and branch. Third, apokatastasis, universal restoration. 1 Corinthians 15:28's consummation, that God may be all in all, hints at holistic healing. Origen's optimism, later lambasted at Constantinople, 553 CE. Gregory of Nyssa's guarded gleam. Purgatorial pyre as paideia, pedagogy, refining rather than roasting mercy's masterstroke. Yet warnings wet, presumptuousness perishes. Hebrews 10:26-27. Councils cauterized controversies. Canonizing ECT's cadre while consigning competitors to catacombs. Yet the quarrel quiesces not. Saints span the spectrum, Scripture's spectrum shimmering through schisms. Suppressed? Paul's panorama, Sadruch's suit too tender or too tortuous, threatening theocratic tranquility. The interred insight? Hell's not hallucination, it's hallowed horror, the Holy One's hallmark. Genesis Justitiar, Genesis 18:25, shall not the judge of all the earth do what is just? Governs whether wormwood wail, fiery finale, or finalities fade. Censorship's calculus, too trenchant for thrones, too tender for tyrants, yet unsealed. It spotlights the sovereign's scalpel, justice jolting the justiciar. Mercy mending the maimed. The capstone query? Not hell's hue, but its harvest on you, archived in agony or absolved by atonement. He who heralded the Holocaust, Matthew 5:22. 29-30, hemorrhaged on a hillock. Harrower of Hades, 1 Peter 3:19. That no nadir need be navigated solo, we've descended the forbiddance, funnels from Gehenna's gore-glazed gorge to apocryphal alcoves of apportioned agony. From Sabbath's soothing sigh to scales swaying with shadowed sympathies. Hell isn't the church's hollow hoax or Dante's daubed dream, it's the divine dossier. Drafted in dread and dotted with deliverance. A mirror mercilessly manifesting our misdeeds, while mercy murmurs at its margins. But here's the hearth in your hope. This unveiled underworld isn't ultimatum, it's urgency. A call to cling to the crucified who cracked the crypt wide. Will you wander its warnings or walk in the winter's wake? Unearth more esoteric echoes. Decode the divine deliberations that destiny decrees. Subscribe to this sanctuary of suppressed sagas, bell on brethren. Share with souls on the brink. Comment mercy in the flames if grace grips your gaze anew. The abyss awaits, no more light leads onward. Until our next unveiling, abide in the judge who justifies, shalom and shofar sound.